Welcome to the Rex Andrews Show. Glad to have you. If you're a first-time listener, welcome aboard to the conversation. Don't forget, I am shameless. I am a well-dressed beggar. I actually have a caller on today, and I will beg for those stars on the rating. So if you think we're doing a good job, give us the stars. If you are a returning listener, thank you for listening in. Because of you and our great guests, which we have another one today, we've cracked the top 10 fastest growing podcasts out there in the world. We have listeners in 32 countries, 6 continents. And if I could figure out how to geofence and catch those penguins and get them listening, I'd have listeners on every continent, but we're not there yet. Maybe we can find the science research centers and get some listeners down there. Okay, so a little bit of house cleaning before we get to our guest here today. Don't forget to subscribe, wherever platform you're on. We're on all the social media platforms, and this podcast can be viewed and listened to on YouTube. Don't forget that we are on 23 different podcast distribution points in the world. So if you don't like the one you're listening on right now, hey, we're just about everywhere. I don't think there's one out there that we haven't. So from the big boys all the way down to the little ankle biters, we are out there on the podcast. So fantastic. Lastly, please visit the show website, because that's where the hub of our universe is. We have the bios of all of our guests, previous, current, today, and future. You'll always see about 20 to 25 people on the docket coming in. So please visit there, because we're going to talk about a lot of things here on the show today, but not everything. So if you go there, you can get their bios, you can get links to their businesses and how to get a hold of them. Again, we always have interesting people. Okay, enough of the house cleaning. We'll get on to our guest here today. I always tell people I have too many interests for just one lifetime. And my problem is just around every corner, there's another discovery. Well, we got a discovery here today, a great expert in his field. He is a digital marketer. I'm going to talk in depth of that. He has a marketing agency, and he helps people with their online and digital. I mean, that's just about the only way to go these days. Everything else is, I think, is a waste of money. And he's also an adjunct professor. And so I'd like to introduce to you folks today, Aaron Welsh. Aaron, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Rex.
Good to have you here today. All right, so Aaron, the way we play our game here on the show, it's all about people, interesting stories, interesting stuff. So what I'd like to do is go back in time in history, because we all are accumulation of where we've been. And especially there's a lot of things that influence who we are based on how we were raised and, you know, the environment we were in. Now, we all have predisposed intelligence, and we all gain our own education along the way, whether it's self-taught or taught or learned from others. But let's go back in time, and here's kind of the list of things I'd like to cover with you. I'd like to know where you were born, and then where you were raised, because sometimes that's not always the same. I had one guest that moved 63 times before she was 15. So certainly want to know about that, because the influences. Do you have siblings? Do you have siblings that survived your harassment? The things that you might have done growing up. So what interests did you have, whether you were into sports or theater, shoplifting, dance, whatever those happened to be. A little bit about your parents, you know, what type of things that they did. So their careers. We also see parents' careers influence a lot of people. Sometimes that's for the good, where they're supportive, and sometimes it's, hey, I'm going to beat you, Dad, because you don't believe in me, kind of thing. So then we'll hopscotch through your little education, and let's talk about, then we'll get into digital marketing. So Aaron, where were you born?
Port Arthur, Texas. So for people without Google Maps in front of them, that's Southeast Texas. Head east on I-10 and stop before you hit Louisiana.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. So you understand humidity.
Oh, my goodness. Port Arthur is the second most humid place in the continental United States. So wow. It was not until I was built and moved away did I learn really that you didn't have this constant sheen of moisture on your skin. Yeah.
See, I grew up out here in Colorado. I'm a Colorado native. I did live in 7 states, and I lived in Texas for a while, but it wasn't down in what I called the armpit of Texas, the southeast.
Absolutely.
Houston. And I don't even understand the concept of humidity. I mean, it's just stifling. So, you know, when you go down there and you're a person that's used to wearing chapstick all the time to keep your lips, moist, it's just a whole different world. And, I was at that time, I was in an industry where we're wearing suits all the time. I felt like I had to shower by 5 o'clock every day because I would just be so moist. It was a different feeling. So you grew up in Port Arthur then?
Yes, Port Arthur. My hometown is Groves, Texas.
Okay.
So all 12,000 of us.
All 12,000.
100% a refinery town.
Okay.
Basically a town inside of a refinery. And,
wow.
My father, both my grandfathers, uncles, everybody worked in the refinery.
Okay. So almost a coal mining family, except in oil.
Absolutely. My brother became a pipe fitter and worked in refineries. I'm kind of the first male Welsh to not work in the refinery.
Wow. Okay. So what did you do as a kid growing up? How did you, what interests did you have outside of when you were not in school?
Well, I mean, baseball was kind of my first love of sport. Always big into sports, even though I was practically the littlest kid on any team.
Okay.
I didn't break 5 feet tall or 100 pounds until the summer after my freshman year.
Wow.
So I was always the runt, but always loved sports. I was very lucky in that I was always a good student. School was always pretty easy for me. And I don't know, kind of the right place, right time. I had a very early, interest and fascination with computers.
Okay.
So, we were by no means a wealthy family. Dad working in a refinery, but my parents got me my first computer when I was 7.
Well, I was about to ask you. So, what was your first computer?
Yeah, oh God, it was like a super early Texas Instruments. It was basically a keyboard that plugged into the TV.
Okay. Yeah, the old TIs. Gosh.
Yes.
They were such a huge player back in the day.
I know. But yeah, BASIC, learning to program in BASIC.
Yep.
Some of those very early video games. I was all in.
Fantastic. I remember my first, and so I'm 55. I graduated from high school in '83, and my senior year, I actually took a computer class, and gosh, this was Fortran days. I mean, just forever ago.
Fortran, COBOL.
Yeah, Fortran, COBOL.
Yeah,
just forever ago. And then when I went off to college, I got my first experience to mainframe computing with the IBM punch card system. Now, the punch card system, so this was in '83. Punch cards have been around a long time. I mean, most people don't realize the punch cards were actually invented to help the Nazi Party in Germany, clear back in the '30s. Okay, so IBM was actually a huge enabler to the Nazi Party, which a lot of people would probably get all bent out of shape about that. Maybe I shouldn't tell anybody because they might try to do some cancel culture for IBM. But anyway, so the funny part about my first experience with the IBM punch card systems is I had this huge project I was working on. And, punch cards had to be in a sequential order, as far as where things meant. I walked out of the computer lab, and the computer lab there had steps, probably about 10 steps to get to, because the building was kind of on a hill, to get down. And I was walking out, and I had my punch cards in my box, and it was a little bit windy, not too bad. And I saw this stunning young lady, and she was coming up the stairs. Well, I just gawked at her, and as she passed by me, I stepped off the first step, and I missed it. And there I went tumbling, and there my punch cards went into the wind. And it took me like a week to get that fixed. It was incredible. And so I learned very quickly after that experience to cover the box, make sure that I weren't dropping it anywhere, it wasn't getting wet, and stay away from those gorgeous co-eds that distracted me with my computer project. Fantastic. So what year was this when you got your first computer, roughly, being a TI?
I was 7, so that'd be 83.
83? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, a long time ago. I mean, you can remember the Commodores and stuff?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was one of the smart kids. I was in computer literacy classes before everybody else.
Yeah.
Commodore 64s. We had Apple IIe's, Apple IIgs. That was amazing because I had a color monitor.
Oh my goodness.
Wasn't just green. So, back then, like Oregon Trail took on a whole new vibe.
Oh yeah. Well, can you remember back in the days when we went from the big floppy disks down to the hard case?
Oh, the 3.5s.
The 3.5s, and we thought we would never have enough data to fill one of those. Okay. And you probably would remember what CD backslash would mean. Most people.
Oh yeah.
DOS. I mean, becoming a DOS person and stuff. And then when you had Windows come out and how trashy it was, we always used to say about Windows, code once, test everywhere, kind of thing. And so it's been an interesting ride over the last 35 years to see the technology change and blossom and those types of things.
So, absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy. When I tell my kids about the punch card story or, the things we had to do, or the original Atari games, how simple they were, or Pong.
Pong.
You just go down to Pizza Hut, and that was the place you could go and find a Pong machine, and you'd sit there and play Pong forever. And then when Pacman came out, that was the coup de grace, right?
I clearly remember lobbying my parents, Pizza Hut.
Yep.
To see if we could get a chance to sit at a Pacman table.
Yeah, absolutely. Pizza Hut knew what they were doing because they did it nationwide. Yeah. You literally, if you were traveling, we'd go to Nebraska, we'd go to Kansas and places like that, Utah, and you knew that if I went to Pizza Hut, there was going to be a Pong or a Pacman machine. That was for sure. They were smart about that. Pizza Hut probably needs to rethink what they're doing currently because they're struggling, but that's another whole story for another day. So you finished up high school there then, where you grew up?
Yep, Port Neches Groves High School.
Okay.
Ended up barely graduating because I got smarter than my teachers, and school was boring.
Yep.
So I think I wrapped up my senior year with over like 103 absences.
Woo!
I was just straight up skipping school. I was kind of done. And, but managed to show up to my trigonometry final. My classmates actually thought that I had died.
Oh my goodness.
They were like, "What are you doing here?" Like, there was a rumor that you had died. And basically didn't go my last semester and still managed a C+ on the final. So, not a good lesson to pass on.
No, I understand that whole concept. I had taken enough classes when I was in high school and junior, sophomore, loaded up on everything. So I only had a couple classes that were meaningful my senior year. My last semester of school, I had student council because I was the president of my class. I had typing, which I had about as many absences from typing because isn't that what you hire someone to do at the time? We had those old IBM Selectrics and stuff, and the typing teacher was just painfully stupid in my mind, right? So, and then I had 4 gym classes. And so
nice.
That was the end of my senior year. So I understand checking out the last part of high school. So anyway. Okay, so where'd you go off to school after that, or did you go off to school?
I did not. I was going to take a year off of school since I had been going since preschool. I'd been going to school for 15 years. I needed a break.
Yeah.
And managed to almost get through the summer until I joined the Marine Corps.
Oh, okay.
So I knew that that summer after high school, not doing anything worthwhile, didn't want to be, I was working at Papa John's Pizza. I knew that I didn't want to be the pizza guy my whole life.
Yeah.
So I knew I needed a kick in the butt, and I knew that I wanted money for school because I did not want to go to school and accumulate all this debt.
Right.
And kind of start out behind. So my solution to that was joining the Marine Corps.
Okay.
So in the Marine Corps, 18 and a half years old when I got there. And that's a big difference for a kid who basically never left Southeast Texas.
Yeah.
Whole level, like I did not grow up in a household of very good discipline.
Okay.
So whole different level of education when it comes to, everything. I mean, everybody, seeing the movies, I remember coming back from boot camp and sitting down and watching Full Metal Jacket with my mom, who was really against me going to the Marine Corps because her stepfather wasn't one. and I'm watching Full Metal Jacket, and like the first half of that movie is just like the greatest comedy show I've
Oh
ever
yeah,
seen.
absolutely.
Yeah, and she's just like weeping, like how can you think that's funny? It's like that is hilarious what you're
Yeah,
talking about, because a lot of that stuff,
it does.
happened on
It
some
does.
level.
Yeah. Oh,
Absolutely.
there's a pile in every class, right?
We had recruit Precious.
Okay.
This young man's name was Precious, and he was 5'6", 130 pounds, soaking wet with a stutter.
Mm,
So this poor guy sometimes it would take him an entire day to request permission to go to the head
wow.
without stuttering. They would not let him go use the bathroom without saying it clearly.
Right.
And he ended up getting washed out.
Washed out. So where did you do your basic? Where did you do basic?
I was a Hollywood Marine.
Okay.
Very thankfully, I went to San Diego, and I was part of the class that actually had three different platoons crammed into one, because this was 95, so this was coming out of kind of the first government shutdown.
Right.
So we had three different classes all crammed into one, so we had over 100 people in our platoon.
Ooh.
We had a shortage of drill instructors. It was the winter, so the days were short. And, I had a really great recruiter who knew that I was a smart kid and I was not going to physically dominate anybody.
Right.
I'm not like 5'5", 140. So he just gave me the good advice: just scream as loud as you can, do everything that they tell you as fast as you can, never laugh out loud.
Yeah.
And that was, it was great advice, and that advice worked very well for me.
I chuckle because I grew up as the son of a drill instructor and then paratrooper instructor for he was in the 82nd Airborne when he went to parachute. And so my dad was one of those crazy guys who would jump out of planes and he would throw people out of planes. And so, he was an interesting guy. He's been gone about 7 years now. But he was an interesting cat because that drill instructor stuff that carried over.
Oh, I'm sure. God, that's not a household I would appreciate. I bet the Great Santini has special meaning for you.
Yes. And so watching Full Metal Jacket, the Great Santini, you'd be like, this is too close to home, because I had been on the receiving end of many of those rants, to say the least. That's funny. So how long were you in the Marines?
I was in for 4 years.
4 years. Okay, you took a full tour.
Yep, full tour. I was incredibly lucky to be in from 95 to 99. So I'm a peacetime Marine.
Peacetime Marine.
Existed anymore.
Did you travel internationally, or did you have any deployments anywhere?
Yep, I got deployed twice to the Middle East. So floating on Navy ship, from San Diego over to Kuwait and back, and hitting all the different Liberty ports on the way there. So that was again an incredible change from refinery town Southeast Texas to oh look, there's Hong Kong and Hong Kong, Korea, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, all stops in the Middle East. On the way back, hitting Australia and Bali and Indonesia.
Wow.
It definitely gave me the travel bug that has 100% not left me.
Yeah, I was going to say, from a Marines or military perspective, that was damn near a vacation, right?
Oh, absolutely. It was, back then, because there was nothing going on, it was prized duty. To be on ship for 6 months, you're going to make tax-free money once you enter the Persian Gulf. You don't have a chance to spend your money.
Right.
Because you're on ship.
Yeah, what are you going to
do? For me, my first deployment, I was 19. So, it was a lot of fun, very specialized education in some ways. I very much learned how to negotiate on the streets of Thailand.
Okay.
Take every number you see on a calculator and divide by 8, and that was kind of the negotiation tactic.
Okay.
Tons of knockoff software. I probably used pirated software for another decade after I picked it up.
Oh yeah.
From overseas.
You were damn near the king of open source, huh?
Oh well, pride open source. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's amazing. I don't think everybody understands the amount of intellectual theft that goes on in the South. Yeah, in this Southeast Asia and stuff. It's just horrible. And you can go there and find just about anything you're looking for. I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
It's a completely different culture. Intellectual property is not something that's really valued. So
no, there's no respect for it.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So if you have a good idea, and I know people who have done this, develop patents, develop things, send it over to China to get manufactured, and then 6 months later you're going to see a competitor on Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was your next stop after the Marines?
Yeah, after I got out, I went to the University of Houston. I was bound and determined to become a college basketball coach. I had grown up to the height of 5'7". Did not play in college, but I was going to lead men and become a college basketball coach. So I actually followed Coach Clyde Drexler, who just signed on to the University of Houston to become a student assistant and learn the trade.
Wow.
And none of that happened.
Oh my goodness. So at 5'7", I don't think you were posting up on anybody.
No, definitely not posting up. I could shoot from the outside. However, slow.
Yeah.
Not quick. Decent shooting, but I didn't even make the varsity team in high school. So, but I was all strategy. And it's funny, I actually have, I wrote a book about basketball practice and philosophy while I was on ship during my last employment.
Wow.
And, of course, that got shelved. That was just something to do to pass the time.
Sure.
And I kid you not, things along the lines of expected points per shot, because I was a stat junkie.
Yeah, math guy. Yeah.
Back home, I was literally keeping a scorebook of the wiffle ball games in my backyard. I was that kid. So, expected points per shot. And if you shoot 40% from the 3-point line, then that's better than 60% from 2.
Mm-hmm.
You have a better, you have more expected points per shot. And,
per shot, yeah.
If you were getting 80 possessions per game, this is what your scoring could be. And now here we are in the modern college and NBA game, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
Man, maybe if I could have got in there with Coach Clyde or, with the Rockets, maybe I could have been down one. Who knows? Because that guy didn't play anymore.
Okay. So when basketball coach fizzled out, what was your next stop? Is that when you got into computers a little more, or what was next?
Yeah, well, I moved to Austin because, I was in San Diego.
Yep.
I moved to Houston. It's big and gray and, slimy because of all the humidity.
Yeah.
Austin's a very much cooler town.
Yep.
It's much prettier. There's a lot more to do, especially in the early 2000s.
Yep.
So I moved to Austin and kind of fell into my first digital marketing job.
Okay. Fantastic.
I had a friend who was a property manager, and this company was hiring. So she went to change light bulbs, and they said, "Are you here for a job?" So they said, "No." So her reply was, "No, I'm not here for a job, but I have a friend who knows the internet. Let me call him." So I was there that day interviewing for a sales job at a company called mall.com. Mall.com, the internet mall, where
I remember it.
We were smiling and dialing, getting people to pay for placement on the map. And that was my first real digital marketing job.
Okay.
I I knew the internet. I was the only guy in the barracks with a computer, so I knew, how to get airfare and how to find apartments and, buying stuff online. When I was on ship, I was buying supplements online and having them shipped to me, and then I was selling them for a small profit.
Yeah.
To the guys on ship, 15% from them, and then I got a 15% discount, so that was a little extra coin.
Yeah.
For me. So I knew companies that were already doing marketing and e-commerce back before it was called e-commerce.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so I was calling them and getting money, and that was kind of the beginning of my career.
Yeah, in the mid '90s, I was down in Austin on a regular basis. My big client was Dell. Got to meet Michael Dell. That was when it was still in the Arboretum over there. For those who are familiar with the Austin area, used to spend a lot of time on Friday nights and Saturday nights out at the Oasis, keeping track of the sunset when they ring the bell. And so I have so many loves of Austin. Now, Austin's a completely different place now with skyscrapers and, all the things that are going on. But Austin has always been a very, since the early 90s, it's been a very hip software. I think in my mind, it's overtaken San Jose, to be honest with you.
Yeah, especially since so many people are leaving San Jose coming here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great for property value, but it's not great for property taxes.
Yeah, exactly. And with Tesla moving down there and Oracle's moved most of their stuff down there. I mean, there's a lot of big companies that are doing a lot of stuff.
Apple's largest campus is now just north of Austin.
Yeah, just north of Austin.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Dell is divesting all of their buildings.
Yeah.
Because they finally figured out, hey, everybody can do this work from home, and we don't have to pay for all this infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly. No, crazy days back in Austin, so I got some connections down there. So you started your first digital marketing. I understand we were talking beforehand. Was that when you dropped into search? Or was that when you really started working search?
Yeah, well, I made friends with the folks who were actually generating traffic from all.com for the website.
Yeah.
And that was more interesting to me than calling people and getting money.
Yeah.
So kind of, they taught me, the early search, early paid search before Google started. This was go to and find what, and Alta Vista had a really fledgling program, and that was the beginnings of me diving into paid search.
Okay. So how long did you do that type of search? Because I know Google became a dominant, player in the marketplace. So how long were you doing that?
I'm still doing it.
Okay.
I mean, 20 plus years later. Now, obviously made the transition to Google. I was a Google AdWords beta tester. Right when Google opened up their platform, that is when I was exited from the company because I didn't get along with sales director. So I got put out on the street and said, I can do this better than you guys can, and called up a few of my clients and said, hey, come over with me. I'll get you better traffic for a cheaper price, and started my first agency.
Okay, fantastic. Now, with your first agency, were you like a lot of startups and that type? Were you doing all the work then, or tell me a little bit about the environment?
100%. It was me and my buddy who was, we were like, two of the top 3 salespeople at mall.com.
Okay.
He was doing the sales, I was doing all the fulfillment. So, and this started out of my 1-bedroom apartment.
Okay.
So, doing all of the paid search, generating traffic, doing media buying, generating more traffic. And, we were guaranteeing traffic at a price per click. And this was almost before, this was right as cost per click was becoming a thing.
Right.
So we were able to, generate good traffic. We were actually doing very early on tracking so that we could prove that we had generated and delivered the traffic that we had promised. Again, we were super early in the game. I want to say the industry was less than $2 billion a year.
Right.
When it started. And now it's upwards of almost $400 billion a year globally.
Okay. So things grew for you, I'm assuming, because you were successful at it. One of the trends that we saw is that there were a lot of people offshore that started to do SEO, but I think it watered down a lot of the perceived effectiveness.
Yes.
Is that, well, am I on target on that?
Oh, absolutely. And it's still something that, 20 years later, we battle against. I battle against this every day.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand on some level, if you're looking at marketing as an expense, then you want to get your fulfillment as cheaply as possible.
Right.
And it's really a failure in mindset, because marketing should not be an expense. It should be
Yes.
an investment.
Right.
If you put money out, you expect a return. That's an investment. That's not an expense.
Yeah.
That's not paying the utility bill. So yeah, plenty of folks still outsource all kinds of digital marketing tasks and services. Now, granted, the quality of services increased tremendously over 20 years.
Yeah.
But the barrier to entry into this industry is still, I have a computer, I have a website. And honestly, you don't even need a website anymore. You can go to marketplaces and get hired on. You can do it strictly from social media.
Yep.
Anybody can claim anything without any kind of credential or training and become an expert. So it's something that we still battle against.
Yeah, as we were talking before, because my other businesses besides yapping behind a mic is traffic, and I know of 9, 10 different sources that we push a lot of people to, but I've never been a deep search person. And what do you think is the biggest misconception about search? Because there's a lot of mystery to it. There's with Google changing their algorithms, well, any of the search providers changing their algorithms on a regular basis. I can remember the transition when Google was starting to penalize companies because their sites were not mobile responsive, things like that. So what's the biggest misconception you find in working with search with clients?
God, there's so many. I think the biggest misconception is the internet. The internet is like a water faucet. You can just turn on traffic and turn off traffic.
No.
That is so not the case. If it were that easy, we'd all be, work at home millionaires.
Yeah.
It is not that easy.
Yeah.
So, people expect that level of immediacy and success, and it's just not the case.
No, search is more of a marathon type strategy. You're not going to just flip it over in a month or 2 or 3. I mean, that's just not, anything that's lasting. And if you register a domain, you can pretty much guarantee 2 to 5 times a day, you're going to get an email or a call from somebody about building you a site and search and stuff. And not one of them speaks English, and there's nothing wrong. I've done a lot of offshore development, nothing along with internet marketing, a lot of software development. But man, you throw up a website, you buy a domain, they're all over you like a cheap suit. And you get so many different stories of why they're different. And I struggle with it because it's like, they inundate you so much that you don't know what the truth. You really don't know the truth.
Yeah, I mean, the other misconception, or another misconception, is that internet marketing is a commodity.
Yeah.
Like web design, web development, it's not a commodity.
No.
There's a science and there's a skill to it. Just because you can build a website doesn't mean it's going to be good. Doesn't mean it's going to be built correctly. Doesn't mean it's going to be built with marketing in mind, because unlike if you build the best mousetrap in the world, like, people aren't beating a path to you. You still have to work to get found. So, God, I deter people all the time from internet marketing to, like, set up a website to resell a bunch of garbage.
Yeah.
All the drop shipping stuff like that. The time has passed.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that your initial exposure to a lot of internet sites and stuff probably started clear back in Cold Fusion days and then went to HTML.
.cfm.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. My first agency website was done in Profusion. So, oh, it's so bad. Sometimes I'll hit the Wayback Machine and go look at it. And just,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
it's just horrible. It's like when you look like clips of the
like
early
high school pictures.
Yeah. High school pictures, early Windows screenshots and stuff. You're like, really? But then we transitioned. The world transitioned over to HTML. A little more standardization there, a lot more expanse of the education, a lot less proprietary stuff. And then we made the big shift over to content management systems,
Yes.
with what's happened with, the WordPresses of the world and all the different content management systems, which really brought web development down to sort of the web development for dummies. But people you can go out and throw up a WordPress site in a day. I mean, that doesn't take very long at all. But that doesn't mean you have anything strategically designed for marketing.
Right.
So,
but that level, I mean, that technology and that modularization, it's really allowed small businesses, individual small businesses, to be able to compete.
Yes.
With enterprise level companies. That's
exactly
all the time, especially with SEM and search. If you're strategic and you do a very good job of, only bidding on keywords that are really high value, very specific to you, very bottom of the funnel, small businesses compete with enterprise businesses.
Yeah, you really can.
You don't have to rely on SEO, which is much more difficult. It's much more of a long game.
Yeah.
I can write 10,000 articles about Cisco networking, but I will never outrank Cisco. It's just never going to happen.
No. So what do you think? What's been the biggest change with algorithms over your career from the search engines? I mean, what have you seen that's been the biggest change?
I mean, just how things are ranked from an SEO standpoint. I mean, back when I started, we were keyword stuffing. We were, typing the same keywords over and over in the same color font as the background.
Yeah.
That was a tactic that we found and exploited. So there's always some level, and then the Penguin with the elimination of duplicate content websites, which really just, almost completely destroyed affiliate marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a major source of income for a lot of folks. And I know you've been able to survive it.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Like, a lot of folks got really hurt by that.
Well, when you look at affiliate marketing, it's heavy lifting to pull traffic. I mean, and most of it these days is mostly in paid, activities. You see some of the newer technologies coming along with geofencing and some of that. But if you want to do anything in affiliate marketing, you have to go hunt the customer down. You cannot passively wait things for people to come find you. It just doesn't work that way. And that's the same. That's the same way with any of the technologies now for traffic. You cannot wait for an audience to be built. One of the things, or find you organically. One of the things, I talk to a lot of podcasters because I'm always trying to learn and be I'm in those circles and stuff. There are so many of these people that think that they're going to throw out a podcast and it's just going to go crazy. And the next thing you know, they're going to be the next Joe Rogan or Ben Shapiro or somebody. And they spend all this time, I got to have the best audio. I got to have the best video and what mics and what software for editing. I'm like, none of that matters if you don't have traffic. All right. Yeah. So it becomes a nice hobby for you, but it's not a business. And in my mind, and I'm a little jaded because I look at the world from a traffic perspective. A podcast is just traffic. It's content for traffic. Yes. That's all you do. That's all it is. It's entertainment, but it is traffic. That's all it is. My mind. And I'll talk to podcasters who just think that their content is the center of the universe. I'm like, well, you can't turn that into an income. There's no ways to monetize that. So you better start thinking about making your podcast something that drives traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like another example of, you can paint the Mona Lisa, but if nobody looks at it, nobody knows about it.
No, doesn't matter.
it's not the best painting, but it's the painting with the best PR.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. You know, and it's horribly saturated in my opinion, because, you know, in the podcast, in iTunes today, there's over 1 million podcasts. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you skip ahead and get there? Now, luckily, when I brought my show back online and started doing these things, I've used my own, you know, eat my own dog food and move things up. So I know how to make the thing grow faster. And if I were to sit down with the biggest guys in the industry, if I ever could get an audience with them, they would jump on to the same things I'm doing, you know, because they hopped on, you know, guys like Adam Carolla, you know, he just did his 3,000th podcast. Well, there was nobody in the marketplace back then, you know, Joe Rogan.
He was competing against like 30 other guys.
Yeah. And so there wasn't this competition. And so
they had a name to begin with before they started.
Yeah.
Starting out of obscurity, you know, you really got to, and this is exactly what I was saying with paid search, you really got to be strategic and find a way to get ahead and cut the line.
Yeah. Really. Well, that's my philosophy is you got to go create your own audience. You've got to cut the lines. You've got to get ahead of people. And, you know, we've all heard that old joke about the two hunters going out to hunting bears, you know, and the old hunter is out there and he's a rough and tough old guy. And the new guy, first time trip out there, they're in the Alaska brush. And the new guy hears a bear, you know, in the brush, and you know, you can't see it. 6 feet tall, 7 feet tall. You can't see him. And he looks over to the old guy who's been seasoned doing this for like 30 years. And he says, do you ever worry about you having to outrun the bear? And the old guy looks at him and says, hell no, I just have to outrun you. And so, you know, that's what it is these days. You cannot be a passive online business owner. And I don't care what type of business you run. You can't be passive. You can't be passive at all. So help me understand a little bit about the types of customers that you work with. Do you have a certain segment of the market that you work with, business size? Tell me a little bit about that, because, you know, you've been at this, 20 plus years now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this was all brown when I started.
Yeah.
And this was much more full.
Yes. Yeah. Me too. I don't have any of it left. I shaved the back part off, but that's it, right? So, yeah, the industry's taken my hair. So what is your customer profile when you want to work with somebody?
Yeah, we, you know, my agency, we really focus on service-based businesses. Okay. I really enjoy working with service-based businesses. One, because we are one. So we feel the same, you know, struggle, pain, things we have to overcome, things we have to take care of. You know, and those are more relationship built. You know, even if you're a roofer, you're going to put on that roof and you're probably not going to talk to that person for 20 years. Sure. But there's still a relationship that is built because you've got to deliver that service. And that takes time and some trust. And, you know, it's not transactional. So, you know, the reason for that, again, is we're a service-based business. Yeah. And, you know, there is a little more marketing behind it because it's not transactional. So those folks, you know, $1 to $20 million a year in annual revenue. Okay. Is really our sweet spot. And honestly, very selfishly, that is born out of, I work in, you know, Fortune 500 companies in and with, I work with Cisco Systems, Rackspace. I've worked with, you know, IBM and Ingram Micro and CDW. And you do great work for those folks. If you're out there generating hundreds of millions of dollars a year in business, nobody knows. Yeah. You don't get to feel the satisfaction of the job well done. Yeah. You know,
the work to benefit ratio just doesn't, you don't get anything out of it.
It doesn't exist. They're too big. There's too much momentum. You don't get to feel a win. Yeah. You know,
you don't go home feeling like today I moved the dial for him, you know?
No, absolutely not.
And then there's zero loyalty in this industry.
Oh, yeah.
So
absolutely.
You're always looking over your shoulder because they're always looking for someone to do it cheaper, you know?
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, I've been reorged out of companies and laid off from, you know, when private equity comes in and guts a place, you know, I'm one of the expensive guys, so I'm some of the first ones out the door.
Yep, exactly.
Which is what led me to begin freelancing again, because there was a period multiple times where I did freelancing full time, and started the agency because I was tired of getting laid off, even though I was doing good work. So working with those size of businesses, 1 to 20 million, you get to feel those wins. You get to hear a sales director or a business owner say, "Hey, we need to dial it back because I need to hire more people."
Yeah.
Like nothing makes me feel better than I need to hire more people.
Right.
That doing a good job, like help, especially this past year and change, helping businesses get through this pandemic, and they don't have to lay anybody off because we found a way to make enough money to keep everybody around. Or businesses expanding during this time, businesses pivoting. I've got a great accounting firm as a client. Now they're a pretty big firm. They've got 60, 70 people spread all over Wisconsin, and they've expanded. And it was a situation where they didn't have to lay off a single person. They've expanded. They've opened new offices, but they've also pivoted. They went from completely in-person, very in-person meeting centric, like physically handing over documents. We completely transformed their workflows. Where it's all virtual. And it's all online. It's all workflow automation, and now they're servicing people in all 50 states. Everybody's safe. They're working from home, or they go in the office, and they're safely distanced, and kind of the sky's the limit for them.
Well, what's interesting, I think, one of the things that the pandemic brought forward for a lot of people in many, many industries, and to me, it didn't make any sense. It was the first time that they could do things remote, right? I mean, now you see, like my bank, they have like 2 tellers, and everybody else is working from home. The regional transportation district here, so our mass transit here in the Denver Metro in the Front Range, so the trains, the buses, all that good stuff, they're shutting down 85% of their office space because during the pandemic, they figured out, I can do this, and, I spend practically more than half my day on Zoom, and I'm just as effective as that. And our tools are so good. But to me, it's kind of funny. I was a chuckle because the minute we got a laptop, and we remember the 14.4s.
Oh, and, my God.
The dial-up, and then you thought you were in tall cotton when you had a 28.8, and so I've been remote and mobile for as long as we've had the internet, pretty much. And it's nice. In fact, I had a mentor who just recently passed away, Laurie Edwards, former IBM guy. And he said, "I will gladly buy you a notebook because here's what's going to happen. You'll work everywhere. You'll work all the time." And so it's been very interesting to see that. So no, I think it's been fun to see because I think there's a lot of efficiencies to be able to work from home. Now, I might have to put my refrigerator in the basement and put it under lock and key. But, working from home.
I've got my COVID-15.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. So anyway, what do you think's next? What do you see next on the horizon for what you're doing in digital?
It's interesting because, Google is making this very concerted, very obvious to me at least, effort to change the way that search engine marketing is done. They are really trying to get everybody to market to the full funnel rather than just to the bottom of the funnel. And that's good for Google. And it's good for large businesses, but it's not good for small businesses or local businesses.
Right.
Because they have to be most efficient with their marketing funds because there aren't very many. There's not very much of it. So pushing people into smart campaign, and I will use air quotes here, smart campaigns, getting people to use more top of funnel, kind of vague keywords, being forced into that. It's a lot of traffic. It's a lot of discovery traffic. but it's not very, it's not very focused. It's not very bottom of the funnel where your best ROI is. So they're really doing a service to small businesses.
Yeah. Well, and I think people need to understand, as a business owner out there, for our listeners who are, Google and Facebook are not, Alphabet and the parent for Google and YouTube. They're not worth what they're worth because they're on your side.
Right.
They're just not. And the technologies that they have developed to keep us engaged, sort of that bring you back all the time, present a bubble of content to you that is just in your interests because they can get you. And, as much money as I've spent and my friends have spent on social media ads, no, they're not there to help you. They're just not. I mean, they're there to make as much money as possible. And now, did you chuckle? I have to ask up here in the industry. When Zuckerberg and Dorsey and the big dog Alphabet, I never remember his last name, were drug in front of Congress, and they've been drug in front of Congress like 4 years. And it was funny to see these Congress people, these Congress men and women, who didn't understand that these are marketing platforms, and that selling data was part of their thing, and they acted like it was this effigy that that they just got there. I'm like, guys, how do you think that these are public companies without revenue? I mean, it was interesting to see that, and I still think there are too many people in the world that just don't understand that.
Yeah, it was all like political theater. And, I have been a part of the Google economy almost my entire adult life. I've been literally selling their product for as long as they've had a product.
Right.
And they are not, and God, it's even a little embarrassing. I teach search engine marketing and search engine optimization. Google is not a search engine.
Yeah.
They are a two-sided, they are a marketplace.
Yeah.
They bring advertisers, they're a publisher.
Yeah.
They bring audience, they create content to marry them. Facebook is the same, Twitter's the same, Google's the same. It's no different. It's why network TV exists.
Yeah.
Somebody creates content, they get advertisers to get people, and the more people you can get to engage with your content, the more you can charge for those advertisements.
Exactly.
It's just a marketplace.
It is a marketplace.
So to think they're, benefactors of society, man, they're there for profit.
That's right. I was always been a disciple of Jeffrey Moore, the author of Crossing the Chasm and Inside the Tornado and stuff. And he basically says, if you're not a digital company, then you really don't exist. You look at companies like Toys R Us, which were forced out of industry. There are so many labels and logos that are cast across the rocks because they forgot to be technology companies. I mean, Amazon is a technology company from through and through. Google is obviously a technology company, but they're an advertising. I mean, they literally are a marketplace, as you said. So people just don't understand that, and that's not going away. It just is not going away.
No, there's some great books out there, and I'm going to forget the author's name, so I apologize, but Software Ate the World.
Yeah.
Data is the new oil.
Yep.
There are really great books who really explain, even Bank of America. Right now, Bank of America is making just as much profit selling data as they are providing banking services.
Absolutely.
Your free Gmail account, man, they monetize that every which way they can.
Every which way they
can. Not a free service. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
No, there's no such thing as a free lunch. So when people are considering their traffic, what is your basic recommendation to get them started? So, let's pretend I've got a brand new business and I'm going to, throw a site up. I get my local ponytail to help me throw up a WordPress site. And what do you think? What is your first recommendation?
Well, I mean, I'm going to use the fantastic answer that I use for most everything is it depends.
Okay. Yep.
Always have your goal in mind.
Yep.
Always have your customer in mind.
Mm-hmm.
You have to define who that customer is.
Right.
You have to figure out what their pain points are, what they're looking to do. I kind of have this belief that, we're simple creatures.
Yeah.
We buy things for two reasons: to eliminate some sort of pain.
Yep.
Or to either make ourselves money or make ourselves happy.
Yep.
And to be fair, you can make the argument that making yourself happy is a form of elimination of pain. So there are two motivations. That's it.
That's it.
If you can address both of those motivations, you're going to have a lot easier time selling your product or service.
Yeah.
And that goes for businesses too. Take away some sort of pain, become compliant with something, or make more money.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
It's not rocket science by any stretch.
No, and those motivations have been around since the beginning of man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Again, we're simple creatures.
It's simple creatures, and the only other one I would throw in there probably would be we always talk about more money, solving pain, and more sex, because those are the things that drive human beings. Now, I'm not going to go down the 1 out of 6 clicks on the internet for porn. No way, not going there. But no, I mean, it is, to make ourselves happier, and that's all part of that. Yeah. So how do people get a hold of you?
Well, a couple of ways. Maybe the agency is Lift Digital Marketing.
Okay.
So trying to really be on the nose with that name. Lift, L-I-F-T. We're not a ride service. The website is lift-digital.net. So still working on that top shelf domain name. I've got some work to do there. And then you can find me personally because I run this agency, but I also, again, I'm an adjunct professor. I have my own consulting business as well. Aaron M. Welsh, so M for Michael, AaronMWelsh.com. From a consulting standpoint, I typically work with, those enterprise businesses, helping with strategy, a lot of strategy work, a lot of search engine marketing work.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky enough to be on the global demand generation team for Cisco, so I have experience in breaking into new markets, and the cultural differences between, North America, Europe, Middle East, Asia, Pacific, just a lot of things that I never knew until I got introduced to them and learned them about, things that you should and shouldn't do if you want to try to be successful in another market.
Yeah.
You've got to market to those people in the way that they want to be marketed to, just like here.
Exactly.
So, it's one size does not fit all. It can't be a bunch of white people all over the world because the world doesn't look like white people everywhere. So a lot of localization work. I've got a lot of good partners who help with that. So that's another place you can find me. Okay.
So my last question for today's episode, because I'm going to have you back. I got some more things to unpack here. If anybody's listened to my podcast, so we all have this thing called our bucket list, things we want to do before we die. Well, there's always an opposite in the universe. So for every one direction, there's always another. So there's another list of things we don't want to do. It rhymes with bucket, starts with an F, but I'm not going to say that, okay? Now, what might be on Aaron's effort list? Now, I'll give you some examples from me. Now, people who listen know I'm not eating any sardines. I've done that once, not going back there, okay? Another one is I'm not going back to Mexico City. I went down there on some business trips and I had to have armed guards to go to a business meeting. So that has no interest to me. Another thing that's on my bucket list, our effort list, would be probably the fact that I'm not interested in listening to a lot of Wayne Newton music. Okay, not going to do that. So, what might be an item or two on your effort list, Aaron?
I have always had a physical reaction to the music of Rush.
Okay.
It used to just make me incredibly angry, like the Hulk. Now it makes me really nauseous.
So Rush, like is in Geddy Lee, right?
Oh yes. I've actually been in physical altercations about, the nobody's ever considered Geddy Lee. Come on. So yes, his voice, it doesn't put me into seizures, but no, I hate me some Rush.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, that's a great one. Unique.
Yeah, that's.
I think I might add that one to my list because you know, I've never had a couple friends in high school that were just like all into Rush, and it was everything. And I'd listen to that and be like, that's pain. And then when I was playing football in college, I'd go to the gym at night because that was the only time I could squeeze it in. I was running a business and going to school. And this guy at the front desk played Bruce Springsteen's The River album. And to this day, no, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, Bruce doesn't make me angry, thankfully. But do without it. I am totally with you on the sardine bit. Having worked in pizza places in high school, you know, the one gentleman who would order sardine pizza on a Friday night, like we would draw straws to see who had to make that pizza. Totally disgusting.
No, that's not doing that. Well, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you sharing all you did. You give us your background. We'll have people take a look at your site. So it's AaronMWelsh.com and then lift.digital.net.
Oh, so, I'm sorry.
Dash
digital.
Okay, dash digital. That was my bad handwriting. I can't even read.
No worries.
So lift-digital.net. So thank you for coming on. So good to have you. We'll have you back. So we'll call this a wrap for today, folks, on this episode. So don't forget the 3 things we always say: be bold, be safe, and make it a great day.